What you're about to hear is a radio program produced by the Colin McEnroe Show that aired for 2 hours in the middle of the night from June 20th to the 21st. It has been extracted from a top-secret vault and edited for length.
Very much your call.
Harbinger.
This is your lonesome gal.
Welcome to the Colin McEnroe Show Midnight Spectacular.
All right, so welcome to our late night show, and we are welcoming your phone calls tonight. The other thing that I decided tonight was that it would be fun to have live music in the studio. I happen to know a lot of musicians. Walking through Elizabeth Park a few days ago, and there's my friend Hugh Blumenfeld, and I said, do you like to stay up late at night? And it turns out you do.
Yeah, I do.
You didn't know that was a trick question, that I was going to dragoon you into something.
I had no idea that when I stepped in that one, I was committed.
Right. So, and this is very important because it's the solstice.
That's right.
You are a person, you're a telescope enthusiast. You're Mr. Telescope.
I have become Mr. Telescope
you are Mr.
to my
Telescope.
friends.
That's your show on Disney Plus, Mr. Telescope. I've seen it a bunch of times. I'm actually a little bit puzzled about the solstice because, I thought it came on a specific date, but it turns out it's like one of three possible dates, and it has nothing to do with our calendar. It's stuff that's happening in the sky. That much I know.
But it's pretty close.
It's
close.
It's
never too far away.
Yeah.
Our calendar is a little bit messed up because we actually believe in days, and
and the universe does not.
The universe has no idea. And the other interesting point is that in the wintertime, we're actually closer to the sun than we are in the summertime. The summertime, the Earth is in an oval orbit, and we're actually pretty far from the sun, almost as far as we ever get. But since we're tilted toward it, that's why it's so hot.
See, as I told you earlier tonight, I've lately come to the conclusion that I don't like outer space, and it gives me anxiety attacks. And I feel like all of this stuff, you know what it's like? What you just described, it's like a Six Flags ride that you didn't buy a ticket to and you can't get off. It's just going around doing things. And I feel that about all of outer space. It's like the sun, you can't reason with the sun. Like the sun is going to do whatever it wants to do. You can't negotiate with it. You can't, you can't sue it. You can't do anything about it. And that in my later years, that makes me very nervous.
Okay. I don't know what to say about that, but
I need help.
But with my my pretty big telescope, I feel like I'm learning my way around the universe. I mean, I've started to learn where the planets are, and I know when to expect them when they're rising, and I know what phase of the moon is going to be, and it's just I feel really connected to our neighborhood.
Well, I should also say this before we get too deep into the show. I've always loved the idea of late night radio. I've never had a late night radio show, but I've always loved the idea, whether it's like Gene Shepard doing kind of comic monologues or Art Bell and George Noory talking about UFOs and Bigfoot. By the way, they shouldn't call him Bigfoot. It's just like a stupid name, right? Like Sasquatch is better, Yeti is good. Bigfoot just sounds like they just didn't spend any time thinking about the name. But I've always liked the idea that at late night radio, you can do stuff, because it's like being in Iceland, people aren't paying that much attention. So you can just do stuff. You can do whatever. And I've always wanted to try something like this and maybe, get some of the kinds of phone calls that you get late at night when people want relationship advice or they're worried about UFOs or they've had an encounter with a shadow person or something. So feel free to make those calls to us tonight. And we'll be talking in just a few minutes with a UFO expert who's been on our show before, the state director of Connecticut Mutual UFO Network, better known as MUFON. But before that, Hugh Blumenfeld is going to play, as he will throughout the night, a song. It won't be the same song every time, but he will play a series of songs. What are you going to play for it? I think you have something very appropriate.
I have something
our conversation
that I hope is appropriate. Yeah, when I was growing up, I just wanted to be abducted by aliens. I just thought that would be the cool thing and a great way to get out of this.
Okay, go ahead.
When I was young, all I wanted was the moon. I hung that National Geographic map in my room. In 7th grade, Mythology 101, they called me Little Endymion. You remember me now. And space was the object of all my country's desire. And the skies of my childhood were laced with launching pad fire. Oh, and I was the boy who stood under street lamps at night, waiting for those strange blue lights to come take me away. Shoot the moon and set me down in the sea of tranquility, just the stars and me. Shoot the moon and give me a home in the 21st century. With a little less gravity, we could fall free. Shoot the moon. If I had been 10 years older, I might have been tripping on Yasker's farm. But I probably would have been a phantom flying over Vietnam, in a dream of altitudes where blue turns black, and never looking back at the pieces on the ground. But I saw the choppers rise out of Saigon's fall, and my fingers traced the writing on the long black wall. And I knew there'd be no spaceships in my future. I guess I was born a little late or way too soon. Shoot the moon and set me down in the sea of tranquility, just the stars and me. Shoot the moon and give me a home in the 21st century, with a little less gravity, we could fall free. Shoot the moon. And 250,000 miles isn't really that far. Yeah, it took me 2 Chevys, but I've done it in a car. Driving from town to town with this old guitar, built in 1969, one small step for mankind. Shoot the moon and set me down in the sea of tranquility, just the stars and me. Shoot the moon and give me a home in the 21st century, with a little less gravity. It is our destiny. Shoot the moon. Oh, shoot the moon. Oh, shoot the moon.
Hugh Blumenfeld. There should be like applause or something like that. People are indeed calling in. Let's talk to the famous Alex Dubin right now. Alex, welcome to the show. What are you calling in about? About the Appalachian Mountains, apparently.
Well, so here's the thing I think people don't understand is how old these mountains are, and that we literally live in the shadow of something so ancient we cannot wrap our minds around it. You were talking about space and the sun. This is a whole other level. Like, the Appalachian Mountains were formed 1 billion years ago.
Oh, that is upsetting. Now I'm afraid of the Appalachian Mountains, in addition to being afraid of outer space.
And you should be afraid of the mountains. Here's the thing. These mountains were ancient when the rings of Saturn were formed.
See, that doesn't seem right somehow. I mean, what, like, what, the rings of Saturn like new or something?
The Cassini satellite thinks they're maybe 100 million years old.
Yeah. And how old are the Appalachian Mountains again?
They started 1 billion years ago.
All right. Okay.
Like, the reason, if you go to the Rocky Mountains, they have dinosaur fossils. We don't have any in the Appalachian Mountains because they existed before there were dinosaurs.
But could we
they
go back
existed
to... Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
before there were trees.
What did they do all day? There was nothing. They must have been so bored.
There was nothing.
Yeah. There weren't even rings of Saturn.
They were trilobites.
I'm still a little troubled about, like, did Saturn, like, get rings? Like, you know, people get special rims for their tires or something? Did they, like, was Saturn up there with no rings for a while? Is that the thinking?
It's one of those debates about, that's a whole whole other thing.
It's a whole other conversation?
Yes.
All right.
It's a whole other conversation.
Next time we do a late night show, we'll talk about that. All right.
There we go.
Okay.
Right.
So do you feel that you've satisfactorily established how impressive and old the Appalachian Mountains are, or is there anything else you want to say?
I just feel like we're sitting right next to something that is so old and just, it should freak us out more. And I think subconsciously it does.
That's a truly great late night call, Alex. That's exactly what we're looking for, that people are insufficiently freaked out about the Appalachian Mountains. Alex, thank you so much for your call.
Well, I'm one of those people who's awake until 1 or 2. So
Okay.
happy to be here.
Right. Well,
enjoy the rest of the evening.
Next time
Try
we'll
to
have
stay
you
awake.
host, and I'll call in, and I can go to bed a little bit earlier. That sounds good. We're going to take a little break here. This is 2 a.m. by Hartford-based poet Soulinet.
It's that sort of 2 a.m. where everything is blaring. Insecurity and restlessness create a chorus of chaos, instruments of destruction aimed at sleep. The sort of 2 a.m. where 6 gunshots have just gone off, the sort where neighbors' footsteps are heard stampeding to their window to catch the latest. Another body on our lawn? Another lover's quarrel gone very, very south? Another no-face letting shots into the air just because it's Saturday. Pop quiz. Which is louder? The woman screaming outside or your nervous system being set off again? It's just that sort of 2 a.m. Disrupted heart rhythms where every thought is now in your head. Kaleidoscopic possibilities and regret, where you lay in your bed seeing pics of your ex with someone else and you can't ask. The sort where you browse through all your past lovers' profiles. We know this game. They shamelessly do the same even though they just got married. Say hi to your wife for me. It's the sort of 2 a.m. where the world is an unexplored candy store for those who want too much, an antique shop for those who can't forget or let go, a church for lonely worshipers and the aching gnaws at your existence, the sort where your lumpy pillow grumbles at you, protesting that you don't belong here. Your tired sheets can't shield you from the boogeyman desires that haunt you no matter how tightly you curl yourself up in them, attempting to suffocate the emptiness that fills you. Your breathing becomes unbearable in the way it echoes around the room, having you reminiscing on things and people you shouldn't be missing. The solitary women in your painting stand as a testament that you too will be alone, even in all this noise. Winter is coming. And these lies in your skin can't get enough moisture to make you believe them. It's the sort of 2 a.m. where long after the police sirens have gone to sleep, you're still in bed, constructing poems to cope, wanting to be asked the right questions, while warring thoughts and emotions go head to head. Nobody wins. It's just that sort of 2 a.m.
You're about to hear an excerpt from the Colin McEnroe Show Midnight Spectacular, a radio program which aired in the middle of the night from June 20th to the 21st. Do not, under any circumstances, tell others what you have heard today.
Looking through the night sky, looking closer together, looking out to me, when you softly passes by my window. I feel it in the darkness, need to feel the softness, need to feel the sweetness.
We are back. Hugh Blumenfeld is with me for as long as he wants to be, and he'll be playing more songs as we go along here. But also, because it's late night radio, we feel that there's certain things you need to talk about on late night radio. One of them, by the way, and I'm going to come to this in a little while, is quicksand. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk to Mike Penicello, who's been with us before, state director of the Connecticut Mutual UFO Network. But I don't think he's ever been with us late at night before because we've never done this before. So first of all, Mike, welcome back in a sense.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
So just to reacquaint everybody with you and your interest in this topic, how did you get interested in UFOs or UAPs or whatever we've decided we're going to call them right now?
Kind of like the flavor of the month. What do you call them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually got into it because I liked military aircraft. And when I was growing up, a lot of the documentaries would always talk about reverse engineering of alien spacecraft. And they use that technology in our military craft. And I was like, well, let me see if there's anything true to this or not. And then, you start going down the rabbit hole of the internet and you start seeing all these other things that are out there. And it kind of grabbed me, and it's held on to me ever since.
I know. To what degree do you feel fairly certain, Mike, that there are things either flying past us or things around us that did not originate on Earth? I mean, I'm not talking just about meteorites, but I'm talking about things that would fit into the category of your interest.
Yeah. Well, I always go to what is our current level of technology and what can we do?
Mm-hmm.
Known. I mean, the black budget world, they throw millions of dollars at things and they never tell you what it is. So maybe there always is that question. It could be ours. But realistically, we know how helicopters work. We know the flight patterns and characteristics of a helicopter and aircraft. We move in linear motions. We can't zigzag. And when you look at these craft and these reports that people are telling you, either with the video evidence or just story after story after story, the same type of movements, the zigzag pattern, it stops, it goes fast. If you look at those Navy videos that with the way these fighter pilots are describing, and these are individuals whose job it is to know what these characteristics are, because they're out there protecting our skies from other adversaries, and they don't know what it is. And they're talking about the high Gs that these craft are pulling and the incredible maneuverability of these craft. We don't have the technology, at least not in the disclosed world of aviation, that have this kind of movement. So if we can't do it, then who's doing it? It has to be an unknown. And by definition, it's a UFO. It's an unknown flying object.
Well, another possibility would be that because, in fact, people from organizations like MoveOn believe that there are occasional UFO crashes. Presumably, there might be technology that exists in secret now that was, as you say, reverse engineered from a crashed UFO, right?
Yeah. Well, with the Roswell crash, probably the most famous crash that happened. From there was speculated you had fiber optics, lasers, anti-gravity technology, all of which were incorporated into, fiber optics is the foundation of our modern communication system. Lasers are used in everything now, from pointers to at a school classroom to high-power lasers that shoot down missiles. So all of this supposedly came from that Roswell crash. And if it did, and they also got the engine propulsion to work and reverse engineer it, then we can incorporate that into other type of craft. Maybe a reconnaissance craft, or some say that the triangle UFO sightings that people see sometimes, it's Hudson Valley UFO flap, being we're in the New England area, they were in upstate New York, but that did bleed into Connecticut. It went up as far as West Hartford. There were sightings during that flap from the 80s to the early 90s of a triangle UFO sightings. Some speculate that was actually a U.S. military craft. It was a reconnaissance craft, and that used anti-grav technology.
Well, I mean, we're learning all the time, and we're going to continue to learn. And it's obviously a very different topic now than it was, as you say, before 2017. So we're going to stay in touch with you, Mike Penicello, Chief State Director of the Connecticut Mutual UFO Network. Thanks for being with us tonight on our late night. I got to talk about UFOs on late night radio. So I do want to just bring up one thing, and I think, Hugh, you're the person that I can talk to about this. So I just read a story. One of the stories was included in the material for tonight's show about a woman. She's fine, but she was walking on a beach in Maine and she fell into quicksand. And she's fine. She's out of the quicksand. I don't want anyone to be worried about this woman. But I feel like I've been on a kind of strange journey here because growing up, as a kid, you'd watch a Tarzan movie or something and there'd be quicksand. And I remember the first time I saw that, I thought, I'm never leaving the house. If there's quicksand and you don't know where it is, and then you fall into it and you can't, that's the worst thing. I'm never going to go anywhere. And so as a child, I did not leave the house for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And then at a certain point, one started to read that that's all just an invention of Hollywood, that there's no such thing as quicksand.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. I thought, no worries anymore. I can live a carefree life because there's no quicksand. And now I'm reading that there's quicksand. And I just feel like, make up your mind. Whoever's in charge of this, there either is quicksand or there's not quicksand. But you just can't keep yo-yoing us this way about it. It's very, very, it's stressful.
And if it's going to exist, not in Maine. I mean, put it somewhere. Put it somewhere else.
No, I think I like it that it's in Maine because there's people around. The big problem with quicksand is if you're Tarzan and you fall into it, there might not be somebody might not walk down that jungle path for days, and even so, if they did, then they'd have to find a stick or something I don't know, So in Maine, I feel like, chances are you're walking on a beach in Maine, you fall into quicksand. I think it's called supersaturated sand. There's a technical term for it, I guess. I don't know. I'm just becoming acquainted with all this, but I just feel it's not right. Either there's quicksand or there isn't. So Hugh Blumenfeld in the studio right now. I think you said you had a song you wanted to play.
Yeah, songs are weird. Songs are, if you were thinking of a song you wanted to sing it for yourself, you start singing it, it just kind of unrolls from your memory, and you can't really start in the middle.
Yeah,
and it's always made me think that songs are somehow different from other stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like they exist and they just unroll. Anyway, this song kind of unrolled. I was teaching. And we were singing songs about animals, and I asked what they want to write about, and they said, let's write a song about a cat. Coincidentally, I just sung them a song about a cat. But one little kid said, let's write a song about a snail. And everybody kind of looked at him like he was kind of a little crazy. But that was me, like when I was 8. So I went home, and this song just came out. I am the snail. I don't move fast. But if you look again, I won't be where you found me last. I am the snail, pale as a memory. I am the roaring in the labyrinth beside the sea. I am a helmet on a shoe. I am the secret smell of you. I am the voices in your ear that call your name year after year. I am patience. I am proportion. I am progress without fortune. And if I love, who would know? Even for a slow lover, I am slow. And if I dream, how could you dream it? All your flash of inspiration only chars the spirit. In a world of salt, in a world of glass, I have spent a whole night climbing up a blade of grass. I am the snail, I will get where I'm going. I am the speed your hair and nails are growing. I am the snail, because I move all of creation's moving. I know that it's a minor point, but it's still worth proving.
Hugh Blumenfeld. I should have done it snail style. Hugh Blumenfeld. Snail would take even longer to say.
It would take longer to
But
say
there's that old joke about the guy who's, he hears the doorbell ring. He goes to the door. He opens the door. There's nobody there. He looks around. Doesn't see anybody. And then he looks down. He does see a snail sitting on the doormat. Picks the snail up, throws it out in the garden. A couple of years go by. He redoes his kitchen. He gets a new job, stuff like that. And one day the doorbell rings again. He goes to the door. There's nobody there. He looks down and there's the snail. And the snail goes, "What the hell was that all about?" But that's a great song.
Oh, thanks.
And we're going to go back to the phones here. We got people calling in from all kinds of places. I don't know what this is about, but it doesn't really matter. Owen from East Lyme. Hi, Owen.
Hi, how are you?
Just fine.
It's just a late night, and I figured we're talking about UFOs, and
Yeah.
I figured we'd talk a little bit about origins of life.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know, and siphonophores and maybe cells. It's just, when I was a kid, we'd be around the kitchen table with my parents, and we'd talk about science. My mom was a microbiologist. My dad was a chemist, and I always had these kind of crazy thoughts. And there's these things called siphonophores that live deep in the ocean, and they're these multi-organisms, and they kind of come together and they form these chains of life. And I thought, man, if it'd be kind of interesting to get an idea if maybe life, was like evolved from the ocean on up. And when we look at cells, you got these cell membranes, nucleus, in mitochondria, and it kind of reminds me, reflects of these things called siphonophores, which I kind of bumped into. I just wanted to open up with that and see what you thought.
Well, I'm still digesting that word, which I didn't. He was looking. I thought it was
Googling it.
Between your freshman and junior year, you're a siphonophore.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that a crazy word?
It is a crazy word. So tell me a little bit more. So what you're really thinking about is, what's the point at which fragments of life that really don't fully constitute what we would call life make the transition into something that you would call a living organism? Is that what we're talking about right here?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the core. It's kind of like intelligence, right? Everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. When is life? When are thoughts? And this is one of those thoughts that I have, is like, what does life really become life? Are we actually multi-organisms, or are we a single organism? And it just seems like if we evolved from something, that would be a very interesting pathway of life. In the deep ocean, there's not so many waves. Everything's very still. It's cold, and things can form and maybe float up eventually. It's a crazy thought. I've never read about anybody really hitting it, but that's kind of it. That's right there. Yeah.
I want to go back to multi-organisms. So, but like a multi-organism, you're saying we might and we might identify something as, this is that life form. That's a fox, that's a crow. But you're suggesting maybe some things are more than one thing?
Yeah, to me, it's kind of like, are we like this single organism, or more of a gestalt? Are we this, like Gaia, the world? Is it all connected into one thing, or are we that single thing? And that question itself brings up more questions, and that's right. So I'm talking about the human as being maybe like a multi-organism.
This is like the best late night call ever, first of all. I want to say that. It really is like a really good call. And if I'd known we were going to have this conversation, I would have timed my gummy a little bit different. But
I should have probably timed those myself. That's great.
But like Hugh, for example, viruses are, depending on who you talk to, viruses are not really fully alive life forms, right?
They can't exist independently. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you've got that. And I think the other thing that I'm hearing and what you're saying, Owen, too, is, and this is something that I think Paul Davies is the one who wrote about this, and he was on our show millions of years ago. But he talked about the fact that everybody's obsessed with extraterrestrials. But there are all these things on Earth that we really don't understand very well, particularly like extremophiles, things that live in these super hot ocean vents, or as the stuff that you're talking about as well. It's like we insist that everything interesting and weird and sort of nonconformist scientifically has to be from other planets, but we don't understand our own planet very well either. So. All right, so we're going to take a little break right now. First of all, Owen, thank you so much. I'm serious about that. You're the MVP right now. If we had a trophy, I'd give it to you. I think we're going to go out of this segment, I believe, with the poem Inflatable Beds by Soulinet, the same poet we heard from before. So let's go here, Inflatable Beds. Take a break. We'll come back. I think we're going to talk to a trucker when we come back.
If we know this isn't going to be forever, let's be lonely together. Let's lay in inflatable beds of tears and swell with solitude in the same room as our parallel heartbreak slow dances in through the window. A perfect match, the perfect pair, your emptiness and my vacant chest. Let's linger a little longer on our longings. Talk to me about her. Let me make my confessions about them. Hold my hand while I think about their touch. Let me kiss you while you imagine home. Let's be hopeless together, because we know this isn't going to be forever. Let's play pretend, because we know it'll end. Too in love with a past that might come back. Help me get past the momentary pain by painting pictures with sand before they're blown away. Waste away with me while we let waves of want wash over us, watching clocks until our time is up, until we say the sort of goodbye we're used to. Allow me to get used. Let me use you without pressure of getting used to each other. Let's be heartbroken together. It won't last forever.
The following radio program aired live in the middle of the night from June 20th to the 21st. It featured calls from listeners. Do not call us now. We're busy.
All right, we're sort of getting near the end of this very interesting experiment with late night radio. I'm so glad that you did tune in wherever you are right now. And you can call 888-720-9677. Maybe get on the air. We hope so. But right now, I mean, we thought a lot about, well, who's up? Who's up at this hour just professionally? And of course, one group of people that we maybe don't think about enough are the people who are driving trucks, maybe 10, 11 hours at a time. 11 hours, I think, is the maximum driving time for commercial drivers per day. So here, and I think we've talked to people from here before, is Keith Trosell, a truck driver and owner-operator of Boba Freight, which is located in Columbia, Connecticut. Keith, welcome to our show.
Hello, Colin. Thanks for having me on.
Are you out on the road right now?
Yes, we are. We are coming back. We were in Annapolis, Baltimore, delivering plants today, and we are almost back to Lebanon.
And so maybe just say a little bit about what it's like. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it's been a lovely day moving plants around in this heat.
Yes, it hasn't been a lovely day to do anything. But I don't know, maybe just say what it's like, driving through the night on a regular basis. Do you see things that other people don't see? Do you notice things in the night that, the rest of us are sleeping on?
Especially this time of year, yes, we do. The wildlife we get to see is great. In fact, there's a deer running in front of our truck right now. But I mean, we've seen black bears, bobcats. When the eclipse was going on, we were, out of state and got to see nothing but clouds. But yeah, we get to see all kinds of things. People, doing crazy things on the road, as you could probably imagine. Some of the neatest things you get to see on the road overnight are, stopping at truck stops because their 30-minute break, or, they get to a place too early and they stop at a coffee shop and you get to meet other people on the road and hear their stories. I met a guy who was a retired physicist who bought a truck.
Ooh, well, yeah. I mean, that's an interesting career path. You're a physicist, and then you want to do that. I mean, so is there a particular kind of personality, or is there a type of person who gravitates towards that?
I'd say a lot of people find trucking as it's a good way to, make a decent amount of money and not have to commit to, 8 years of education. So there's a lot of people, entrepreneurial types. And, a lot of people do very well in trucking and a lot of people don't. But they all have interesting stories along the way.
So I also wonder, I mean, okay, I am a very boring and predictable person, and I really do like to go to bed at pretty much the same time and get up at pretty much the same time. And this is different. I mean, you can't really necessarily plan your life that way. My understanding is, a lot of places want things delivered around 7 a.m. or something. So
no, you really can't plan your life. And that's one of the things I liked about trucking. Previous to my life as a trucker, I worked in nursing. And that was one of the things I liked about nursing, too, was the unpredictability. Because I don't thrive on monotony. I like a different challenge. I like the unexpected.
What other stuff do you, I mean, typically as you're driving along or if you're the one resting, I mean, besides radio, are there other things that you do just to sort of rest your mind, break the monotony, entertain yourselves?
Oh, definitely. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm in the middle of the Dark Tower series right now by Stephen King. It's been on my to-do list for a while. We listen to podcasts, radio, of course. We talk to each other. And a lot of times, you just enjoy the scenery. Sometimes driving in the Adirondacks at night, you see more stars than you see any place in Connecticut. And it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Well, just be careful if you're going through the Appalachian Mountain, because it turns out they're very old and they don't like us. So, I mean,
I did enjoy that segment, and I did know they were very old, and I did know that there were no dinosaurs in the Appalachians.
No, right. No, we're trying to put as much upsetting news out there as we possibly can tonight. So quicksand is back. The mountains hate us. But you sound very cheerful, and so I just, drive carefully out there and watch out for more deer. And thanks so much for spending a little time with us, too, Keith.
I appreciate you having me on, and thanks a lot.
Let's do one more call. Hi, Molly. You're on the air.
Hi. I'm really happy because I have always been kind of identified as a night owl, and everybody goes to sleep, and then I'm the only one up, and then I seek community, and I will do things like a really cool place was to go to Connecticut lunch. We used to be in downtown Hartford, across from, near the train station.
I vaguely, yes, okay, I do remember Connecticut lunch, okay.
But you could always go to all night time. You could go to, and you could find community at those places, and there would be people, and it would be okay to identify as, I very kindly said night owl, but kind of weirdos. So anyway, that's why it's cool that you're having this show, because it'll bring people out of the wings that it'll be kind of like.
I think I agree with that. I can identify. I think there are communities that are based on time. I mean, I used to belong to this group that I refer to as the Cult of Early Risers. And the Cult of Early Risers, you would see them standing outside Brugger Bagels waiting for it to open. or I'd go to swim at Cornerstone. Cornerstone in West Hartford opens up some ridiculous time, and there'd be people lined up, in the darkness of the morning waiting to get in. And those would be the same people that you saw waiting to get into Brugger's Bagels before it opened. And they were just people who get up early and they want to do something, and the world isn't even ready to receive them. And you're talking about a whole other community of people. But I also agree that late night radio is really great. I mean, I probably don't have a future in late night radio. I think I'm illustrating that right now. But I think it's a great thing, that idea that there's a place you could call into, that you don't feel like going to sleep. Everybody else has gone to sleep. But there's, a place you could call in and maybe talk about something like this. That's kind of what you're saying, Molly, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Definitely. So thank you.
All right. Well, you're quite welcome. I think we're going to have Hugh play another song. Hugh, what are you going to do for us?
I'm going to play a song about being up late at night.
Okay.
Because why not? My lover lies asleep, succumbed in mid-caress. The shadows on the wall move in a dark tempest. Well, I try but can't lie still, decide but do not rise, condemned to this my prison by the thin lids of her eyes. Why am I awake? What in me is restless? What here is at stake? Why am I awake? And naked through the house, I play the thief of rest, where the window slatted moonlight throws its crosshairs on my chest. And I fight the nameless angel who tears the sinew from the bone, crying mercy, mercy, mercy on a silver saxophone. Why am I awake? Why must I bear witness? Why and for whose sake? Why am I awake? And the morning will dawn quickly when my vigilance is done. My love will kiss me softly. She'll leave and I'll sleep on. And I'll doze through the tangled bedsheets, and I'll face the westering sun, and I'll marvel at the patterns of the dreams I have half spun. Why am I awake? What in me is restless? What here is at stake? Why am I awake? Why am I awake? Why must I bear witness? Why and for whose sake? Why am I awake?
Oh, that just couldn't have been more perfect. I mean, it really is just like the perfect thing for the show that we're doing right now. We do have time for at least one more call. And Todd, before you start talking, I should explain that I started in radio in 1992. I'd been a writer, full-time writer for newspapers and magazines and books and things like that. And just suddenly I was kind of handed a radio job that I completely didn't deserve or know how to do. But one of the things that I've thought about over the course of this week is that I was trying at a different time of day, first from 10 to noon, that was my first show, and then as a drive time host, both on the station WTIC. I was kind of trying to do late night radio in broad daylight, and one of the things that I really encouraged were callers who they weren't calling up about gun control and abortion and stuff like that. They were calling up about really idiosyncratic things that only they were thinking about. And I think, Todd, that's a little bit about of what you want to talk about here.
Yeah, I've been listening to you for a long time, and was thinking about some of the WTIC callers that you had on a lot. One was JP, the Doomsday Economist.
Yes.
Who was a class. I remember he was worried about the Dow reaching 10,000, I think it was, and that the world was going to come to an end.
He had seen a vision on his TV set that this was going to happen. He was watching the television, and somebody like Jim Cramer or somebody announced it, but it hadn't really happened. He had just seen it, and he felt that was a roadmap for where we were headed.
The other was the Puppet Lady.
Oh, I knew you were going to say her. Yes, that was Lily and the Puppet Lady.
Lily and the Puppet Lady.
Yeah, Lily and the Puppet Lady. She passed a few years ago. Her son. This is actually, if you want to know why you should do radio, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do radio, but if you want to know why you should do radio, I mean, I heard from her son when she passed, and he just talked about how much she would just call out of nowhere, and she had puppets, and she apparently went around doing puppet shows. But I mean, I think that the thing that people remembered about her was that instead of laughing, she would go, ha, ha, ha. Whenever it was appropriate for her to laugh, she'd go, ha, ha, ha. But she was, anyway, he wrote to me when she died and said that this was like a very fun thing for her, that, a lot of these people became kind of little celebrities, at least in the context of the show. And it was a chance for her to kind of show that part of herself.
A very sweet, quirky little lady.
Yes, absolutely. One thing that I realized when I started doing this is that I really like people like that, and there are a lot of people working in radio who don't and think those are the callers you should get rid of. And I just never felt that way. So, thanks for remembering them. I'm going to say one more set of thank yous just to everybody who worked on this show. McCusker, the Wonder Kid, especially. This is her baby. The maestro is keeping me under control as much as is possible and is going to guide me in for a landing in just a few minutes. Jonathan McPants is on the phones. Robyn Doyon-Aitken is walking around being nice and wonderful to everybody and keeping us all happy and calm. Francesca's doing things that I don't entirely understand on social media right now, but she's doing them, and things are happening on social media. And that's all I'm really prepared to say about that. But I also want to thank, before we run out of time here, although we have some time left, we want to thank Hugh Blumenfeld for being in here. But so anyway, this has been a fun thing to do. And I mean, I have to say, I sort of would like to do it again. I mean, our whole idea of this was we would do it once and this would be this thing, and we would then say we did it and that we were really kind of exploring. But I think it's a little bit, I don't know. It's like, this is fun, right?
Everybody here is so enthusiastic. I got here at 10 o'clock. Everybody's so excited to be here, and it's really fun.
All right, so I think the maestro is playing some music that means it's pretty much nearly the end of the show. That's what's happening right now. The show's over. I have so much more that I want to say. But thank you so much for listening, and thanks to everybody who helped out here. And special thanks to Hugh Blumenfeld. And we'll do this again sometime. Let us know if you liked it.